The winter of 1982 was merciless, its icy fingers clawing at my heart as I stood outside Ethan Cole's house, my knuckles raw from pounding on the door. I was Anna Xiao, a military doctor, wife, and fool, shivering in the snow while my husband warmed himself inside with Emily Sanders, the new actress from the performing arts troupe. For 3 hours I knocked, my voice hoarse from calling his name, but the glow of the firelight through the window mocked my desperation. They sat by the hearth, her laughter a blade in my chest, his arms around her a betrayal I couldn't unsee. My strength waned, my body numbed by the cold, and as I sank into the snow, the world blurred into darkness. In that final moment, a warmth enveloped me, not from the fire I'd been denied, but from something ancient, ethereal. A celestial whisper, soft as a prayer, echoed in my mind. Daughter of the Xiao line, your spirit is not yet spent. The ancestors grant you a second chance to reclaim your honor. Was it my grandmother, whose herbal wisdom I'd inherited? Or a guardian spirit of our medical lineage? The voice carried the weight of centuries, promising justice for the wrongs I'd endured. My eyes fluttered shut, and I surrendered to its pull, trusting the unknown. I awoke with a gasp, my heart racing, in the sterile light of my office at the military hospital. It was early winter 1981, a year before my death, and the calendar on my desk confirmed the impossible. I had been reborn. My hands trembled as I touched the familiar medical logbook, the weight of my past life crashing over me like a tidal wave. I remembered the humiliation, the loneliness, the way Ethan's indifference had eroded my spirit. But this time, I was armed with knowledge and resolve. The celestial whisper lingered in my soul, urging me to rewrite my fate. As I steadied my breathing, my colleague Jason leaned across the desk, his voice low and conspiratorial. Anna, guess what? Yesterday the captain came to the hospital and took the herbal soup you asked me to give him. His words were a spark igniting the embers of my past life's pain. In that other timeline, I'd been naive, believing Ethan had finally accepted my care, my meticulously prepared medicinal soup, crafted to ease his chronic stomach issues. I'd spent hours grinding herbs, balancing flavors, pouring love into every spoonful, only to learn later he'd given it to Emily Sanders, the woman who'd stolen his heart. Now, the truth stung anew, but I swallowed the ache, forcing a smile. Did he take it? No big deal. My voice was calm, but inside a storm raged. Jason hesitated, his brow furrowing. I saw him deliver it to the performing arts troupe. It looked like it was for that new girl, Emily Sanders. I heard he's been saying his stomach's been bothering him lately. The medical logbook slipped from my hands, thudding onto the desk. The betrayal was identical to my past life, but I wouldn't repeat my mistakes this time. In that other world, I'd stormed to Ethan, screaming, demanding answers only to be dismissed as irrational, a hysterical wife. The military compound had turned against me, their whispers branding me unstable, while Ethan and Emily played the victims. I closed my eyes, the celestial whisper resurfacing. Honor your worth, Anna. My grandmother's face flashed in my mind, her stern yet loving gaze as she taught me the art of healing, the legacy of our family's medical tradition. I was the only daughter of a prominent medical family trained at the finest institutions, yet I'd given up a glittering career in the capital to follow Ethan to this remote base. 3 years, I'd toiled as a military wife, cooking, washing, crafting remedies for his health, all while he drifted further away, drawn to Emily's charm. The pain of that betrayal mingled with a new fire, a determination to protect myself, to reclaim the dignity I'd lost. I opened my eyes, meeting Jason's curious stare. Thanks for telling me, I said, my tone steady. My mind raced, already plotting. I'd been reactive in my past life, letting emotion rule me. I'd be strategic this time, turning Ethan's betrayal into his undoing. The soup had been my gesture of love. Now it would be my weapon. I glanced at the drawer where I kept my herbal supplies, a plan forming. Bitter apricot kernels, used sparingly, soothed the lungs, but in excess, they could cause violent vomiting, humiliating but harmless. Ethan and Emily would learn the cost of their deceit, and I would ensure the compound saw them for who they were. As I stood, the weight of my past life lifted, replaced by a fierce resolve. The ancestors had given me this chance not to mourn, but to fight. I was no longer the Anna who froze to death, abandoned and broken. I was reborn. This time, I would write a story of strength, justice, and triumph. The sting of Jason's words lingered like a bruise on my heart. Ethan, my husband of 3 years, had taken the herbal soup I'd crafted for his chronic stomach issues and given it to Emily Sanders, the new actress in the performing arts troupe. In my past life, this betrayal had unraveled me. I'd stormed to the troupe's rehearsal hall, voice shrill with accusations, only to be met with Ethan's cold dismissal and Emily's crocodile tears. The military compound had branded me a jealous hysteric, their whispers cutting deeper than any knife. But now, reborn with the wisdom of that frozen death, I stood in my office at the military hospital, my resolve as sharp as a scalpel. The celestial whisper from my ancestors echoed faintly. Honor your worth, Anna. I would not repeat my mistakes. Jason shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting to the medical logbook I'd dropped. You okay, Anna? He asked. I forced a smile, my mind already weaving a plan. Fine, I said, my voice steady despite the storm within. I'm just surprised Ethan didn't keep the soup for himself. Jason shrugged, oblivious to the weight of his revelation. Yeah, he seemed insistent about getting it to Emily. She said she wasn't feeling well. Each word fueled the fire in my chest, but I buried the pain, channeling it into purpose. In my past life, I'd been a fool, pouring love into a man who'd traded it for another's flattery. This time, I'd turn his betrayal into a lesson. I opened the drawer where I kept my herbal supplies, my fingers brushing over vials of dried roots and seeds. As a military doctor trained in Western medicine and my grandmother's traditional recipes, I knew the power of herbs, how they could heal or harm in precise measures. Bitter apricot kernels caught my eye. In small doses, they soothed the lungs, easing coughs. In excess, especially on an empty stomach, they triggered violent vomiting and diarrhea, humiliating but not deadly, a perfect tool for justice. I glanced at Jason, who was flipping through patient charts. Can you do me a favor? I asked, pulling out a new thermal container. His brow arched. Another soup already? This one's special, I said, my tone light but my eyes gleaming with intent. Fresh batch for the captain. Ensure it gets to the performing arts troupe and tell them it's from me, for Ethan. Jason frowned, sensing something amiss. Isn't this like the one from yesterday? I leaned in, my voice low. This one's different. It's tailored for someone who needs a wake-up call. He hesitated, then nodded, too loyal to question me further. As he took the container, I added, Make sure Emily knows it's a gift from the captain's wife. My words carried a quiet menace, and Jason's eyes widened, but he left without a word, the container tucked under his arm. Alone, I mixed the kernels into the soup, grinding them to a fine powder to mask their bitterness. My hands moved with the precision of a surgeon, but my heart churned with a mix of anger and guilt. Was I becoming the villain? No, I decided. Ethan and Emily had chosen to betray me. I was merely exposing their deceit. My grandmother's voice echoed in my memory. Healing is balance, Anna. Sometimes you must wound to mend. This was my balance, a calculated strike to reclaim my dignity. 2 hours later, the military compound was ablaze with whispers. I was sorting prescriptions in my office when the head nurse burst in, her eyes wide. Dr. Anna, you won't believe this! Emily Sanders collapsed during rehearsal, vomiting right on the stage. My pulse quickened, but I kept my face neutral. Oh? What happened? The nurse leaned closer, voice hushed. She was fine 1 minute, then doubled over, clutching her stomach. Captain Cole raised her in his arms and ran her to the hospital. Everyone saw it. His face was pure panic. A thrill of satisfaction coursed through me, tempered by sorrow. Ethan's public display for Emily was a fresh wound, but also his undoing. I stood, smoothing my white coat. Sounds serious. I'll check on her. As I headed to the emergency room, I passed clusters of soldiers and staff, their murmurs following me like a shadow. Emily's collapse was the scandal of the hour, and Ethan's gallant rescue only fanned the flames. I pushed open the emergency room door to find Ethan at Emily's bedside, his uniform rumpled, his eyes frantic. Emily lay pale, her makeup smeared, clutching a basin as she retched weakly. When Ethan saw me, he jumped up. Anna, thank God. She got sick after eating the soup you sent. Please check on her. The accusation hung heavy, but I raised an eyebrow, my voice calm. The soup I sent? That batch was for you, Captain, tailored for your digestive issues. Why would you give it to someone else? Ethan froze, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Emily whimpered, grabbing his hand. Ethan, I feel awful. Her voice was frail, but her eyes flicked to me, calculating. I'd learned about her in my past life. Emily Sanders, a rural girl with dreams of stardom who saw Ethan's rank as her ladder to a better life. Her flirtations were deliberate, her innocence a mask. Now, that mask was cracking. I flipped open the patient chart, and my tone was clinical. Miss Sanders, the soup contained bitter apricot kernels, which were safe for Ethan's condition, but too strong for someone with a healthy constitution. You'll be fine after an IV drip, but it's no surprise you're in distress. The nurses exchanged glances, their whispers barely audible. Ethan's face darkened. Anna, did you do this on purpose? I met his gaze, unflinching. Do what? Prepare medicine for my husband only for him to give it to an actress? You tell me who made the mistake here. The room fell silent, the weight of my words sinking in. Emily's sobs grew louder but lacked conviction, her performance faltering under scrutiny. Ethan's shoulders slumped, his authority unraveling. I turned to the head nurse. Start the IV, she'll recover by evening. As I left, I felt the celestial whisper again, a faint approval. Well done, Anna. My strike had hit its mark, not just exposing Ethan's betrayal, but shifting the compound's gaze from me to him. This was no longer my shame, it was theirs. The emergency room door swung shut behind me, sealing in the tension that crackled like static. Ethan Cole, my husband, stood by Emily Sanders' bedside, his face a mask of panic and guilt. Pale and trembling, Emily clutched a basin, her theatrical sobs punctuating the sterile air. My heart pounded, not with the raw pain of my past life's betrayal, but with a steely resolve forged by my rebirth. The celestial whisper from my ancestors, faint but firm, urged me forward. Claim your truth, Anna. I'd laced the soup with bitter apricot kernels to expose their deceit, and now the stage was set for a reckoning. Ethan's eyes locked onto mine, desperate. Anna, you have to help her. She got sick after your soup. His accusation was a spark, but I was no longer the tinder of my past life, easily ignited. I tilted my head, my voice cool as the winter that had claimed me. My soup? The one I made for your stomach issues, Captain? Why would you give a medicinal brew tailored for your condition to someone else? The question hung heavy, and Ethan faltered, his authority crumbling. Emily's sobs hitched, her eyes darting to me, not with fear, but with a flicker of defiance. I knew her now, Emily Sanders, a rural dreamer who'd clawed her way to the performing arts troupe, seeing Ethan's rank as her golden ticket. Her frailty was an act, but the vomiting was real, and it had drawn every eye in the compound. The head nurse, hovering nearby, stifled a gasp. Other nurses exchanged glances, their whispers a soft hum. I stepped closer to the bed, flipping open Emily's chart with deliberate calm. Miss Sanders, the soup contained bitter apricot kernels, safe for Ethan's chronic digestive problems, but far too strong for someone like you. You're young, healthy, or so I thought. This reaction is unfortunate but predictable. My words were clinical, but their edge cut deep. Ethan's jaw tightened. Anna, are you saying you meant for this to happen? His voice rose, but it lacked conviction, betraying his doubt. Before I could respond, the door burst open, and a commanding presence swept in, my godmother, Margaret Lynn, the base commander's wife. Her sharp gaze surveyed the room, landing on Ethan like a hawk spotting prey. At 50, she carried the authority of a general, her silver-streaked hair pinned tightly, her posture unyielding. She'd raised me like a daughter, guiding me through medical school when my parents were busy at the provincial university. Now, her arrival was a lifeline, and I felt a surge of gratitude beneath my resolve. Well, Captain Cole, she said, her voice dripping with scorn. Quite the scene you're making and neglecting your wife for an actress from the performing arts troupe? Ethan snapped to attention, saluting instinctively. Ma'am, it's not what it looks like. She cut him off with a wave. Spare me. I'm here to check on my goddaughter, but can't ignore this spectacle. A married officer carrying on with a performer? You've forgotten the dignity of a soldier. Her words were a lash, and Ethan's face drained of color. Emily tried to sit up, her voice quivering. Ma'am, there's nothing between us, I swear. Margaret's eyes narrowed. Lie down, girl. If you can't handle a rehearsal without collapsing, what use are you to the troupe? I seized the moment, my voice steady but piercing. Captain Cole, you've been scarce at home this past month. You reek of the rehearsal hall's cheap perfume when you show up. I've spent years making soups to keep you healthy, and you said the cafeteria was enough. Yet you take my care and hand it to her. I gestured to Emily, who shrank under the scrutiny. Tell me, Ethan, what am I to you? The room fell silent, and the nurse's whispers stilled. Ethan's hands clenched, but he had no answer. My godmother's gaze softened as it met mine, a silent nod urging me to continue. I turned to Emily, my tone deceptively gentle. Miss Sanders, we've met, twice? I'm a military doctor, you're an actress. What grudge could I have? But calling my husband Ethan so sweetly, clinging to him in public, don't you think that's inappropriate for a married man? Emily's eyes welled, but I saw the calculation behind her tears. She'd gambled on Ethan's affection to elevate her status, but now the compound's eyes were on her, judging. Margaret stepped forward, her voice icy. Captain Cole, explain yourself. Why is Anna, the youngest attending physician in our district, who gave up a career in the capital for you, standing here defending her honor? Ethan's shoulders slumped, his voice barely audible. It was a mistake. I didn't mean... His words trailed off, drowned by the weight of his actions. I took a deep breath, my heart aching not for love, but for the years I'd wasted. Mistakes have consequences, Ethan. You chose to give her what was mine. Now everyone sees it. The nurse's eyes widened, and I knew the story would spread, not as gossip, but as truth. My godmother touched my shoulder, and her touch was a silent vow of support. Anna, you've done enough here, let's go. As we left, Emily's sobs echoed, but they were hollow, her mask shattered. Ethan stood frozen, his career and reputation teetering. I felt the celestial whisper again, a quiet approval. You've begun, Anna. The showdown had shifted the power, not through screams, but through truth. I wasn't the broken wife of my past life. I was a woman reclaiming her place, and the compound would remember this day. The hospital's sterile air clung to me as I left the emergency room, my godmother's hand a steady anchor on my shoulder. The showdown with Ethan and Emily had shifted the ground beneath me, their shame now public, my truth undeniable. Yet, as I walked through the military compound, the weight of 3 years pressed on my chest, years of sacrifice for a man who'd traded my love for another's flattery. The celestial whisper from my ancestors, a faint pulse in my mind, urged me forward. Free yourself, Anna. I was no longer the woman who'd frozen to death outside Ethan's door in my past life. I was reborn. Tonight I would sever the chains binding me to him. I headed to the Cole house, our shared home in the residential compound. Its modest facade was a lie hiding my loneliness. Inside, the air was stale, the silence heavy with Ethan's absence. My footsteps echoed as I moved to the bedroom, pulling a suitcase from under the bed. I packed methodically, clothes, medical books, my grandmother's herbal journal, each item a piece of the life I'd reclaim. The wedding photos on the wall stared back, our smiles frozen in a happier time. My heart ached, not for love, but for the naive girl I'd been, who'd given up a career at the capital's top hospital to follow Ethan to this remote base. I tore the photos down, ripping them into pieces, and the sound was sharp and final. They landed in the trash, a symbol of my resolve. The front door creaked, and Linda Cole, Ethan's mother, stepped in, her face lighting up. Anna, you're back early. Her warmth faltered as she saw the suitcase. What's this? In my past life, Linda had sided with Emily, calling me immature and dismissing my pain. Now I met her gaze, my voice calm but unyielding. I'm leaving, Linda. Ethan gave my herbal soup, made for his health, to Emily Sanders. He carried her to the hospital in front of everyone. Ask your son how I should feel. Linda's eyes widened, her hands twisting her apron. Nonsense! Ethan would never... Wouldn't he? I cut in, my tone sharp. Ask the commander's wife. She was there and saw it all. Or ask the nurses, the soldiers, or anyone in the compound. Linda's confidence crumbled, her face paling at the mention of my godmother, Margaret Lynn, whose word was law in this hierarchical world. I softened, but only slightly. I've given Ethan everything, my career, youth, and care. He repaid me with betrayal. I'm done. Linda grabbed my arm, her voice pleading. Anna, he's busy with work. You know how it is. Be patient. Talk it out. I pulled free, my eyes burning. Patient? For 3 years, I cooked, washed, and crafted remedies for his stomach while he spent nights at the rehearsal hall reeking of her perfume. Tell me, Linda, how much more should I endure? She had no answer, her silence a concession. I zipped the suitcase, and the sound was final. As I turned to leave, the door slammed open, and Ethan stormed in, his uniform disheveled, eyes red. Anna, stop this! He shouted, grabbing my wrist. His touch sparked a memory of my past life, his cold indifference as I begged for answers. I yanked my hand away, my voice ice. Let go, Ethan, you trampled on everything I gave you. You don't get to hold me now. His face twisted, desperation replacing his usual composure. It was a mistake, Anna. I felt bad for Emily, that's all. Please, let's talk. I laughed, the sound bitter. A mistake? Giving my soup to another woman? Carrying her in your arms while I'm your wife? I'm the only daughter of a medical family, Ethan. I left a future in the capital for you, worked tirelessly here, and you've made me a fool. My voice trembled, not with weakness, but with the release of pent-up pain. Ethan's shoulders slumped, but I pressed on. We're done. I want a divorce. Linda gasped, stepping between us. Divorce? Anna, think of your reputation. I turned to her, my gaze steady. My reputation? Your son's out there flaunting his affair, and you're worried about me? I'm not the one who broke this marriage. Ethan's voice cracked. Anna, I swear I'll make it right. I shook my head, the celestial whisper bolstering me. Some promises are too late, Ethan. You chose her. Now live with it. I lifted my suitcase and walked out, leaving them in the wreckage of their denial. The night air was crisp as I crossed the compound to my parents' small house near the military district. My father, Daniel Xiao, a professor at the provincial medical university, was reading the newspaper when I entered. His eyes narrowed at my suitcase. Anna, what's happened? My mother, Susan Lin, emerged from the kitchen, her face tightening. I set the briefcase down, my voice steady but raw. I'm divorcing Ethan. He gave my medicinal soup to Emily Sanders, an actress, and carried her to the hospital like I mean nothing. My father's paper dropped, his jaw tight. My mother's eyes filled with tears. I knew he wasn't right for you, she whispered. I sank onto the couch, the weight of my decision settling. I tried, Mom. For 3 years, I tried. But I won't let him break me again. My father knelt beside me, his voice firm. Have you thought this through? I nodded. I have. He stood, his face resolute. Then it's settled. Tomorrow, I'll call an old comrade in the legal department. We'll handle the divorce swiftly. No one bullies my daughter. My mother hugged me, her tears soaking my shoulder. You're so strong, Anna. I held her, feeling the celestial whisper's warmth. You are free. As I lay in my childhood bed that night, the pain of Ethan's betrayal mingled with a quiet triumph. My godmother's words from the hospital echoed, her promise to stand by me. I wasn't alone. The compound might whisper, but I'd silence their judgment with truth. This was my breaking free, the first step toward a life I'd build for myself, not for a man who'd never deserved me. The morning sun cast long shadows across the military compound as I stepped out of my parents' house, my suitcase now stowed in my childhood room. The weight of last night's decision, to divorce Ethan and reclaim my life, settled like a quiet strength in my bones. The celestial whisper from my ancestors, a soft echo from my rebirth, pulsed faintly. Stand tall, Anna. My confrontation in the hospital had stripped Ethan and Emily of their pretense, and my departure from the coal house had severed my ties to a marriage that had only brought pain. Yet, the battle wasn't over. Emily Sanders, the actress who'd gambled on Ethan's affection, still lingered, her ambitions a threat I couldn't ignore. As I crossed the compound toward the hospital, a figure appeared in my path. Emily, clutching a lunchbox, her makeup fresh despite yesterday's ordeal. Her delicate frame and wide eyes were a calculated mask, one I'd seen in my past life when she'd played the innocent victim to perfection. But I knew her truth. Emily Sanders, born in a rural village, had clawed her way to the performing arts troupe, her talent overshadowed by a hunger for status. Ethan, the youngest regimental commander, was her ticket to a life beyond the dusty fields of her childhood. She'd flirted, called him Ethan with sugary ease, banking on his rank to elevate her. Her plan was unraveling, and I intended to hasten its collapse. Sister-in-law, she said, her voice honeyed, the lunchbox steaming in her hands. I brought lunch for Ethan. He didn't eat yesterday, and I was worried about his stomach. The words were a dagger, cloaked in kindness, to remind me of my failure as a wife. In my past life, I'd crumbled under such taunts, my screams only fueling her narrative of my instability. This time I smiled, my eyes cold. You've recovered quickly, Miss Sanders. Vomiting and diarrhea yesterday, and now you're cooking? Impressive. Her smile faltered, a crack in her facade. I'm feeling better, she said, forcing a laugh. I just wanted to help. I stepped closer, my voice low but sharp. Help? Or something else? Her eyes widened, but I pressed on, drawing on a lie crafted to shatter her confidence. The commander's wife spoke at the political department this morning. She announced a crackdown on inappropriate conduct, performers flirting with married officers and breaking military marriages. It's a criminal offense now, with immediate expulsion for the guilty. Did you know? Emily's face drained of color, the lunchbox trembling in her hands. Is that true? She stammered. Ask around, I said, my tone casual but laced with menace. Or ask my godmother, Margaret Lynn. She doesn't tolerate indiscipline, especially not from someone like you. The mention of Margaret, whose authority was unquestioned, struck like a blow. Emily's ambition had blinded her to the military's rigid code, and my lie exploited that fear. Military marriages are protected by law, I continued. Breaking one up? That's not just scandal, it's prison. The lunchbox slipped from her hands, crashing to the ground, its contents spilling across the dirt. She stumbled back, her eyes darting like a trapped animal's. I leaned in, my voice a whisper. Some people, Miss Sanders, you should never touch. Ethan's not your savior, and I'm not your fool. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving her frozen in the wreckage of her schemes. My heart raced, not triumphantly, but with a complex ache. Anger at her audacity, sorrow for the girl she might have been, and relief at my strength. The celestial whisper murmured approval. You've struck true, Anna. My lie was a gamble, but it was rooted in the truth of Emily's overreach, and I knew it would spread, tightening the noose around her. The compound was abuzz by midday, though I kept my distance from the whispers. The head nurse pulled me aside at the hospital, her voice low. Dr. Anna Emily Sanders was seen crying outside the troop headquarters. She's been reassigned to the Border Defense Troop, effective immediately. My pulse quickened, but I kept my face neutral. The border? I asked, knowing its reputation as the harshest, most remote unit, where dreams like Emily's withered under sand and solitude. The nurse nodded. They say it's because of her conduct with Captain Cole. The commander's wife pushed for it. Margaret's influence, I realized, had turned my fabricated threat into reality. My godmother, with her iron will and protective love for me, had acted swiftly, ensuring Emily's ambition met its end. I returned to my office, sorting prescriptions, but my mind wandered to Emily, not with pity, but with a clinical understanding. She'd chased a mirage, betting on Ethan's power, only to find herself exiled. Her rural roots had driven her to escape, but her deceit and flirtation methods had doomed her. I felt a pang of empathy, quickly overshadowed by resolve. She'd made her choices just as I'd made mine. That evening I called Margaret, her voice warm over the phone. Anna, you did well yesterday. The compound sees Ethan's shame now, and Emily's gone where she can't hurt you. I swallowed, gratitude mingling with guilt. Did you make the reassignment happen? She chuckled, a rare softness. Let's say I reminded the leadership of our values. You're my goddaughter, Anna. I've watched you grow, seen your brilliance. No one disrespects that. Her words bolstered me, a reminder of the family, blood and chosen, that anchored my rebirth. As I hung up, I stood by the window, the compound quiet under the dusk. Emily's facade had crumbled, her dreams shattered by her greed. My lie had been a catalyst, but her actions had sealed her fate. I wasn't the broken wife of my past, begging for Ethan's loyalty. I was Anna Xiao, doctor, daughter, survivor, and I was free to forge a path where no one could diminish me again. The military compound buzzed with quiet tension, the air thick with the aftermath of Emily's reassignment to the Border Defense Troop. My confrontation with her had shattered her carefully crafted facade, and the whispers of her indiscretions with Ethan now circulated like wildfire. Yet, as I sat in my office at the military hospital, sorting through patient files, my heart carried a dual weight. Triumph at exposing their betrayal and a lingering sorrow for the life I'd once envisioned with Ethan. The celestial whisper from my ancestors, A gentle pulse from my rebirth murmured, "Rise, Anna." I was no longer the broken wife who'd frozen to death in my past life. I was a doctor, a survivor, and I was ready to leave Ethan's shadow behind. The phone on my desk rang, its shrill tone cutting through my thoughts. It was my godmother, Margaret Lynn, the commander's wife, her voice crisp but warm. "Anna, the political department, has summoned Ethan for a disciplinary review. His conduct with Emily has raised questions about his judgment." My pulse quickened, but I kept my tone neutral. "What does that mean for him?" Margaret's voice hardened. "His career's on the line. A commander seen cavorting with an actress? It's a stain on the unit's honor." I made sure they took it seriously. Gratitude welled up, tempered by the gravity of her words. Margaret had watched me grow, her faith in my brilliance unwavering. Her intervention was a shield, ensuring Ethan faced the consequences I'd only dreamed of in my past life. By noon, the news broke. Ethan had been removed from his post as regimental commander and reassigned to a desk job at headquarters. His rank remained, but his path to higher command was sealed shut, and his once bright future dimmed. I overheard a nurse in the hallway, her voice low. "Captain Cole's done for. No one trusts him now." The words should have sparked joy, but stirred a quiet ache instead. I'd loved him once and poured my heart into his health and dreams. Now he was a stranger, undone by his own choices. I pushed the thought aside, focusing on my work, prescribing herbal remedies, a skill honed under my grandmother's tutelage, blending Western medicine with traditional wisdom. That afternoon, Margaret visited the hospital, her presence commanding as she pulled me into a private office. "Anna, your skills in medicinal nutrition are wasted here," she said, her eyes sharp. "The provincial military hospital needs someone like you for their wellness program. I've recommended you for a transfer. Better facilities, more opportunities to grow." My breath caught. The provincial hospital was a prestigious institution, a platform I'd once dreamed of before following Ethan to this remote base. "Really?" I asked, hope flickering. Margaret nodded, a rare smile softening her face. "You've proven your strength. This is your chance to shine, not as Ethan's wife, but as Dr. Anna Xiao." The offer was a lifeline, a path to the future I'd sacrificed. Yet it meant leaving the compound, my parents' nearby home, and the life I'd known. I hesitated, my heart wrestling with fear and ambition. Margaret sensed it, her voice gentle. "You gave up the capital for him, Anna. Don't let his mistakes hold you back now." Her words echoed the celestial whisper, bolstering my resolve. "I'm willing," I said, my voice firm. She clasped my shoulder. "Good. I'll handle the paperwork. You report next month." That evening, Ethan appeared at my parents' house, his face gaunt, eyes red with desperation. My father, Daniel, let him in, his expression cold. My mother, Susan, hovered nearby, her arms crossed. Ethan stood in the living room, his uniform a hollow symbol of his former glory. "Anna, I know I messed up," he said, his voice breaking. "I won't see Emily again. Please don't leave me." The plea reminded me of my past life, his empty promises as I begged for his loyalty. I stood, my gaze steady. "Ethan, you gave my care to another woman and humiliated me in front of everyone. Some things, once broken, can't be mended." He stepped closer, hands trembling. "I'll fix it. I swear." I shook my head, the ache in my chest giving way to clarity. "You swore before, and look where we are." "I'm done, Ethan. I deserve more than your regrets." My father intervened, his voice like steel. "Sign the divorce papers, Cole. It's over." He slid a document across the table, prepared by his legal contacts. Ethan's eyes darted to Margaret, who'd arrived unannounced, her presence a silent threat. "Captain Cole," she said, her tone icy, "refuse, and the organization will reassign you to the border with Miss Sanders. Choose wisely." Ethan's defiance crumbled. He knew Margaret's influence was absolute, her word a guillotine. He signed the divorce agreement with a trembling hand, his signature a jagged scar on the page. "Anna, I'm sorry," he whispered, but I turned away, the celestial whisper drowning out his voice. "You are free." As he left, my mother hugged me, tears in her eyes. "You're so brave, Anna." My father nodded, pride in his gaze. Margaret lingered, her voice soft. "You've taken back your life, goddaughter. The provincial hospital awaits." I stood by the window, watching Ethan's figure fade into the dusk. His fall was complete, his career tarnished, his marriage dissolved. Yet I felt no joy, only a quiet resolve. My grandmother's journal lay on the table, its pages a reminder of the healer I was meant to be. The transfer to the provincial hospital was my new beginning, a chance to honor my ancestors' gift of rebirth. I was no longer Ethan's wife, but Anna Xiao, the doctor, daughter, and architect of my destiny. The train's rhythmic clatter echoed my heartbeat as I left the military compound behind, bound for the provincial army hospital. Ethan's fall, his demotion, our divorce, had closed a painful chapter, and Emily's exile to the border defense troop had silenced her threat. Yet as the landscape blurred past the window, a quiet unease stirred within me. I was free, but freedom felt vast, uncharted. The celestial whisper from my ancestors, a soft echo of my rebirth, murmured, "Build anew, Anna." I clutched my grandmother's herbal journal, its worn pages a reminder of the healer I was meant to be. This was my chance to redefine myself, not as Ethan's wife, but as Dr. Anna Xiao, a physician with a legacy to honor. The provincial hospital loomed grandly in the capital, its modern wards contrasting with the compound's modest clinic. My new colleagues greeted me warmly, their praise for my work in the military district, where I'd been the youngest attending physician, easing my nerves. Dr. Kerr, the department head, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, ushered me into her office. "Dr. Xiao, your expertise in medicinal nutrition is precisely what we need," she said, her tone brisk. "We're launching a wellness program to improve soldiers' health through diet. Your traditional recipes, blended with Western science, could be groundbreaking." My heart swelled. This was the career I'd dreamed of before Ethan, a chance to apply my grandmother's teachings, her meticulous formulas for balancing body and spirit, on a larger stage. I dove into the program, analyzing nutritional deficiencies in military diets and crafting herbal supplements to boost resilience. My days were filled with patient rounds, my nights with research, poring over studies and refining recipes. The work was demanding, but it anchored me, filling the void left by my broken marriage, yet in quiet moments doubts crept in. Could I trust this new life, or would it betray me like Ethan? I pushed the fears aside, focusing on the soldiers who thanked me for their renewed energy, their gratitude a balm for my wounded heart. One morning, Dr. Kerr called me to the conference room. "Anna, we have a visitor," she said, her eyes twinkling. A tall man in a crisp military uniform stood, his handshake warm and firm. Dr. Nathan Chen, from the General Military Hospital, introduced himself, his smile disarming. "I'm here on a 3-month exchange, specializing in internal medicine." His voice carried a quiet confidence, and his gaze held a curiosity that made me self-conscious. Dr. Kerr beamed. "Dr. Chen, this is Dr. Anna Xiao, our rising star in medicinal nutrition. Show him the ropes, Anna." Nathan's presence brought a new energy to the department. He shadowed my rounds, asking thoughtful questions about my herbal blends, how ginseng boosted stamina, how astragalus fortified immunity. "You've got a gift," he said one day, watching me adjust a patient's diet. "Your work could change lives across the military." His sincerity stirred something in me, a flicker of connection I hadn't felt in years. But my heart, scarred by Ethan's betrayal, hesitated. Could I trust again? The celestial whisper offered no answer, only a gentle nudge. See where this leads. Over lunch in the hospital canteen, Nathan shared his story. Like me, he'd grown up in a medical family driven by a passion for healing. "Your reputation precedes you," he said, his tone light but earnest. "A friend from your old district said you're a woman of strong principles." I laughed, deflecting. Generous of them. But his words lingered, a reminder of the respect I'd earned. I thought of my godmother, Margaret Lynn, who'd orchestrated my transfer. I called her that evening, needing her wisdom. "Anna, you're thriving," she said, her voice warm over the phone. "Nathan Chen's a good man, from what I hear. Let yourself live, goddaughter. You've earned it." Her encouragement eased my doubts, but I kept Nathan at a professional distance, focusing on our shared work. We collaborated on a case, a soldier with chronic fatigue, combining my nutritional plan with Nathan's diagnostic insights. The patient's recovery was swift, and Dr. Kerr praised our teamwork. "You two are a force," she said, her eyes knowing. Nathan grinned, nudging me as we left the meeting. "See? We're not bad together." His playfulness coaxed a smile from me, a rare moment of lightness. For the first time since my rebirth, I felt a spark of hope, not just for my career, but for something more. That night, I sat in my dorm, the hospital's modest quarters, now my home. My grandmother's journal lay open, its recipes a bridge to my past and future. I traced her handwriting, her lessons on healing echoing Margaret's words. Live, Anna. Ethan's betrayal had left scars, but they were fading, replaced by the promise of this new beginning. Nathan's kindness, the hospital's opportunities, and my resilience were threads in a tapestry I was weaving, where I was the artist, not the canvas. The celestial whisper hummed softly. This is your time. As I closed the journal, I looked out at the city lights, the provincial capital alive with possibility. I was no longer the woman who'd begged for Ethan's love, nor the shadow who'd died in the snow. I was Dr. Anna Xiao, a healer, scholar, and, perhaps, someone learning to trust again. The hospital, Nathan, and my ambition were my new horizons, and I was ready to embrace it. The provincial military hospital hummed with purpose. Its corridors were a lifeline for soldiers and a sanctuary for me, Dr. Anna Xiao. Weeks into my transfer, I'd found a rhythm, days spent crafting nutritional plans, nights refining herbal formulas for the wellness program. My grandmother's teachings, blending traditional herbs with modern science, guided my work, and each successful patient took a step toward reclaiming the brilliance I'd dimmed for Ethan. Yet, beneath my focus, a quiet fear lingered. Could I trust this new life, or would it fracture like my marriage? The celestial whisper from my ancestors, a soft echo of my rebirth, urged patience. Heal, Anna, in time. My collaboration with Dr. Nathan Chen, the internal medicine specialist on a 3-month exchange, became a cornerstone of my days. His sharp mind and gentle humor lightened the hospital's intensity, and our joint cases, soldiers recovering faster with my diets and his diagnostics, earned praise from Dr. Kerr, our department head. One evening, as we reviewed a patient's chart in the lab, Nathan posed a question that stopped me cold. Anna, have you ever thought of scaling your medicinal nutrition work? Systematizing it for the entire military? His eyes, earnest and bright, held a vision I hadn't dared to dream. I hesitated, Ethan's betrayal still a shadow on my ambition. It would take years of data, I said, deflecting. Nathan leaned closer, undeterred. The General Hospital has resources. You've got the expertise. We'd make a great team. His confidence stirred something in me, a spark of possibility tinged with fear. In my past life, I'd poured everything into Ethan, only to be discarded. Could I risk trusting again, even professionally? I nodded, cautious. Let's start small, a pilot study. Nathan grinned, his enthusiasm infectious. Deal. Our nights grew late, and the lab became our haven as we compiled data, tested recipes, and debated nutritional theories. Nathan's insights into metabolic pathways complemented my herbal knowledge, ginseng for energy, licorice root for digestion, creating a synergy that felt alive. Between experiments, he shared stories of his childhood, his parents' clinic, and his drive to heal. I opened up, too, about my grandmother's journal and her legacy of balancing body and soul. She'd be proud of you, Nathan said one night, his voice soft. The words warmed me, but my heart flinched, wary of vulnerability. Outside work, Nathan's kindness chipped away at my defenses. He brought me tea during long shifts, left notes with quirky medical puns, and once, when rain soaked my coat, lent me his jacket. Each gesture was gentle, unhurried, like spring thawing a frozen river. Yet Ethan's betrayal haunted me, whispering that trust was a trap. I confided in my godmother, Margaret Lynn, over a weekend visit to her home in the capital. Her elegant living room, filled with military honors, felt like a fortress of wisdom. I'm scared, godmother, I admitted, my voice low. Nathan's different, but what if I'm wrong again? Margaret's eyes, sharp yet kind, met mine. Anna, you're not the girl who followed Ethan unthinkingly. You've faced betrayal, walked away, and built a life most would envy. Nathan's not Ethan. He respects your mind, your heart. I've asked around. He's honorable. Let yourself feel, goddaughter. You've earned joy. Her words, echoing the celestial whisper, loosened the knot in my chest. She hugged me, and her embrace reminded me of the family, blood and chosen, that held me up. You're my pride, she added. Keep shining at that hospital. Back at work, Nathan's presence grew harder to resist. One evening, after a soldier thanked us for his recovery, Nathan turned to me, his gaze steady. Anna, you're incredible. Your work, your passion, it's inspiring. My cheeks warmed, and for the first time, I didn't look away. I teased, "You're not so bad yourself, Dr. Chen," my voice lighter than I'd expected. He laughed, and the sound felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. Our pilot study progressed, and our data showed promising results. Soldiers' endurance was up, and sick days down. Dr. Kerr called us to her office, her face beaming. This could be a game changer. Keep it up, you two. As we worked late that night, Nathan cooked noodles in the lab's tiny kitchen, a habit born of his solo years. "You're a specialist and a chef?" I teased, savoring the simple meal. He shrugged, sheepish. "I had to learn. Do you like it?" I nodded, the warmth of the food mirroring the warmth in my chest. For a moment, I let myself imagine a future, not just of research papers, but of shared meals, laughter, and trust. The fear of betrayal lingered, but it was fading, softened by Nathan's steady presence and my growing strength. As I walked to my dorm under the capital's starry sky, my grandmother's journal tucked in my bag, I felt a shift. My work was healing soldiers, but Nathan and this new life were healing me. Margaret's faith, my ancestors' whisper, my resilience, they were weaving a path forward. I wasn't the woman who'd died in the snow, nor the wife who'd begged for love. I was Anna Xiao, healer, dreamer, and perhaps someone ready to love again. With its challenges and possibilities, the hospital was my proving ground, and I was eager to see where it and Nathan would lead. The provincial military hospital had become my haven, its bustling wards and quiet labs a canvas for my rebirth. My work on the medicinal nutrition program, blending my grandmother's herbal recipes with modern science, was yielding results, and soldiers thrived under my tailored diets. Dr. Nathan Chen, now a constant in my days, brought warmth to the grind, his steady presence easing the scars Ethan's betrayal had left. Yet a shadow loomed as I walked to the hospital one crisp morning. The celestial whisper from my ancestors, a faint guide since my rebirth, stirred uneasily. "Stand firm, Anna." I sensed a storm approaching, one tied to the past I'd fought to leave behind. 6 months had passed since my divorce, and I'd heard Ethan had been sent on a mission after his demotion. I assumed he'd faded into his ruin, but fate had other plans. That evening, as I finished a late shift, the duty room door creaked open, and Ethan stumbled in, reeking of alcohol, his eyes bloodshot. "Anna," he slurred, leaning against the frame, "I'm nothing without you." My heart lurched, not with love but with a mix of pity and dread. In my past life, his pleas had broken me, pulling me back into a cycle of empty promises. Now, I stood tall, my voice cold. "You're drunk, Ethan. I'm calling security." Nathan appeared before I could reach the call button, his face calm but firm. "Everything okay, Anna?" His presence was a shield, and I nodded, grateful. Ethan squinted at him, swaying. "Who are you?" Nathan stepped forward, unfazed. "Dr. Nathan Chen, Anna's colleague." "You need to leave, sir." Ethan scoffed, his voice bitter. "Colleague looks like more to me." Nathan's jaw tightened, but his tone remained even. "Whatever we are, it's none of your business. Security's on the way." 2 guards arrived, escorting Ethan out as he shouted, "Anna, I won't give up." The door closed, and Nathan turned to me with concern. "You all right?" I exhaled, steadying myself. "I'm fine, thanks." The incident shook me, stirring memories of Ethan's neglect. Over the phone, I confided in my godmother, Margaret Lynn, her voice a lifeline from the capital. "He's clinging to what he lost, Anna," she said, her tone sharp. "You're thriving, professionally and personally. Don't let him drag you back. Nathan's a good man. Lean on him." Her words, echoing the celestial whisper, bolstered my resolve. Margaret had orchestrated my transfer and saw my potential when I doubted myself. "You're my pride," she added. "Keep leading that wellness program. It's making waves." Her faith grounded me, a reminder of the life I was building. Days later, Ethan returned, sober and polished, a bouquet of roses in hand. He waited outside the hospital, his face earnest. "Anna, I'm sorry about the other night. I've changed. Can we try again?" The roses, once a symbol of our early love, now felt like a bribe. I crossed my arms, my voice steady. "Ethan, we're divorced. You chose betrayal, giving my soup to Emily, neglecting me for months. That's not something you fix with flowers." His eyes glistened, but I pressed on. "I've moved on." I'm building a life that doesn't include you. Ethan's composure cracked. Is it Nathan? Is he why you won't give me a chance? The question stung, but not for the reasons he thought. Nathan was a partner, a friend, perhaps more, but my rejection of Ethan was mine alone. This has nothing to do with Nathan, I said firmly. Even without him, I wouldn't go back. You broke us, Ethan. Live with it. He reached for my hand, but I stepped back, the celestial whisper a quiet strength. You are enough. Ethan's shoulders slumped, and he walked away, the roses drooping in his grip. His persistence didn't end there. Letters arrived at my dorm, filled with apologies and promises. He even went to my parents, pleading for their support. My father, Daniel, threw him out, his voice thunderous. My daughter's done with you, Cole. Get lost. My mother, Susan, was icy. You've got nerve after how you treated her. Their protectiveness warmed me, a stark contrast to Ethan's hollow gestures. I shared the ordeal with Nathan over coffee in the hospital canteen, his presence a steady anchor. He's desperate, Nathan said, his tone gentle. But you're stronger than his regrets. You've got us, your team, your family, me. His words sparked a warmth I couldn't ignore. Our work on the pilot study was flourishing, and our data showed a 20% reduction in soldier fatigue with my herbal supplements, astragalus, codonopsis, and goji berries. Nathan's diagnostic tweaks ensured precision, and Dr. Kerr hinted at national funding. Outside work, Nathan's care deepened, sharing umbrellas in the rain and debating medical ethics over late-night noodles. My fear of betrayal, etched by Ethan, was fading, replaced by trust in Nathan's respect. Yet, I wrestled with vulnerability, my heart cautious but open. Ethan's final attempt came before his mission's end. He left a note at the hospital. Anna, I'm proving myself. Please wait for me. I tore it up, and the act was final. My parents, Margaret and Nathan, they saw the woman I was becoming, not the wife I'd been. The celestial whisper hummed, Forward, Anna. My work, healing, and future were mine to shape. Ethan's desperation was his burden, not mine. I was Dr. Anna Xiao, healer, leader, and, with Nathan by my side, perhaps ready for love again. The provincial military hospital pulsed with life, its wards a testament to my new beginning. My medicinal nutrition program, rooted in my grandmother's herbal wisdom, had transformed soldiers' health, reducing fatigue and boosting resilience. Months of late nights with Dr. Nathan Chen, blending my recipes, ginseng, astragalus, goji berries, with his diagnostic precision, had borne fruit. Our pilot study, showing a 25% improvement in endurance, won national acclaim at a military medical conference. As I stood on the stage, presenting our paper, Military Wellness Through Medicinal Nutrition, the applause felt like a tide washing away Ethan's shadow. Yet beneath my pride, a quiet vulnerability lingered. Could this happiness last? The celestial whisper from my ancestors, a soft echo of my rebirth, murmured, Embrace this, Anna. Back at the hospital, Dr. Kerr, our department head, called Nathan and me to her office. Your work's caught the military's eye, she said, her sharp gaze softening. We're establishing a dedicated wellness department, and Anna wants you as director. My breath caught. Director? The role was a pinnacle, a chance to scale my grandmother's legacy across the military. I'm honored, I said, my voice steady despite the surge of emotion. Nathan squeezed my hand under the table, his smile warm. Congratulations, Director Xiao, he teased later, his eyes sparkling. The title was a crown, but Nathan's pride made it feel like home. Outside work, Nathan's gentle pursuit had deepened our bond. He brought lilies to my dorm, shared quiet dinners, and listened as I spoke of my fears. Ethan's betrayal had left scars, but Nathan's respect was healing them. One evening, as summer faded into autumn, he led me to the hospital rooftop at sunset. The city sprawled below, bathed in golden light. He turned to me, his usual confidence softened by nerves. Anna, he said, kneeling, a simple ring glinting in his hand. You've shown me what strength and heart look like. Will you marry me? My heart raced, joy battling the last whispers of doubt. Ethan's promises had been hollow. Nathan's were solid, built on months of trust. Tears welled as I whispered, yes. The celestial whisper hummed, a quiet celebration. You've chosen well. Nathan slipped the ring onto my finger, his embrace warm and sure. For the first time, I felt a happiness untainted by fear, a future I could believe in. Our engagement spread through the hospital, with colleagues teasing us as the perfect match. My parents, Daniel and Susan, arrived from the provincial university, their faces glowing. Over dinner, my father grilled Nathan, his voice stern. "Are you serious about her?" Nathan met his gaze. "Sir, I want to build a life with Anna and cherish her always." My mother nodded, her eyes misty. "He's a good man, Anna." "Hold on to him," my godmother, Margaret Lynn, called from the military compound, her voice brimming with pride. "Anna, you've soared," she said. "I knew you'd rise above that mess with Ethan. Nathan's lucky to have you, and you him." Her words, from the woman who'd orchestrated my transfer and stood by me through my darkest days, sealed the moment. Margaret had been my rock, her faith in me a beacon. "Come to the wedding," I urged. "I wouldn't miss it, goddaughter," she replied, her chuckle warm. Our wedding was set for autumn, a simple affair in a garden near the hospital. The day dawned crisp, leaves golden and red. My father walked me down the aisle, his eyes red as he placed my hand in Nathan's. "I'm entrusting her to you," he said, voice thick. Nathan nodded solemnly. "You have my word, sir. I'll care for her always." Margaret sat in the front row, her silver hair gleaming and tears glistening as she whispered to a guest that Anna had truly found happiness. The ceremony was intimate, surrounded by close friends, colleagues, and family. We exchanged rings, Nathan's vow echoing, "Anna, you're my partner, my love. I'll stand by you, always." My heart swelled, the pain of my past life a distant memory. After the vows, we danced under string lights, Nathan's arms a haven. My mother hugged me, her tears joyful. "You're glowing, Anna." Margaret approached, her embrace fierce. "You've made me proud, goddaughter. This is your victory." Her words, tying my journey from betrayal to triumph, brought tears to my eyes. The hospital assigned us a modest two-bedroom apartment, and its walls soon filled with our laughter, books, and shared dreams. Nathan took over chores, insisting, "Your hands are for healing, not dishes." His care was a daily reminder of what love could be, steady, respectful, true. As director, I led the wellness department, expanding our program to more bases, my grandmother's recipes now policy. Nathan remained my partner in work and life, and our collaboration was a cornerstone of the hospital's success. The scars of Ethan's betrayal had faded, replaced by a life I'd built with intention. The celestial whisper, softer now, sang of peace. "This is your triumph, Anna." I stood in our apartment, Nathan's arm around me. The city lights a canvas of possibility beyond our window. I was Dr. Anna Xiao, healer, wife, and architect of my joy, ready for whatever lay ahead. The provincial military hospital had become my world, its wards a stage for my triumph as director of the medicinal wellness department. My program, rooted in my grandmother's herbal recipes, ginseng for stamina, codonopsis for immunity, had reduced soldier sick days by nearly a third, earning accolades across military bases. At home, Nathan's love filled our modest apartment, his laughter a daily reminder of the life I'd built. Yet, as I walked the hospital corridors, a faint echo of my past lingered, stirred by the celestial whisper of my ancestors. "Face the shadows, Anna." My rebirth had strengthened me, but closure required confronting those I'd left behind. One quiet afternoon, as I reviewed patient charts, a familiar figure appeared at the clinic door. Emily Sanders, her once vibrant features dulled by 3 years at the Border Defense Troop. Her skin was weathered, her eyes heavy with regret. "Dr. Xiao," she said, her voice low. "Can we talk?" I nodded, gesturing to a chair, my heart steady but curious. Emily's ambition had driven her to chase Ethan's status, her rural roots fueling a hunger for a grander life. Now, that dream lay in ruins, her exile a consequence of her choices. "I'm sorry," she murmured, head bowed, "for everything. Ethan, the soup, the trouble I caused." Her words reminded me of my past life, her taunts veiled as kindness, but I felt no anger, only distance. "It's in the past," I said, my tone calm. "You chased what you thought you needed." Emily's eyes lifted, glistening with envy. "I heard you're married and thriving." "You were right. Some people shouldn't be touched. I was a fool." I studied her, seeing not the schemer but a woman humbled by hardship. "Live better now, Emily," I replied. "It's never too late." She nodded, her shoulders slumping, and left, a small figure against the hospital's bustle. I felt no sympathy, only clarity. Her choices had shaped her path as mine had shaped mine. That evening, I shared the encounter with Nathan over dinner, his hand warm over mine. "Are you okay?" he asked, his gaze searching. I smiled, the weight of Emily's apology lifting a final veil. "I'm fine. It's closure." Nathan's nod was gentle, his presence a reminder of the love I'd chosen. My work consumed me, expanding the wellness program and training staff in herbal protocols. But Nathan grounded me, our shared dreams a steady rhythm. My godmother, Margaret Lynn, called to check in, her voice warm from the military compound. "You met Emily?" she asked, her tone knowing. "You handled it with grace, Anna. I'm proud of how far you've come." Margaret's words, from the woman who'd guided me through betrayal to triumph, stirred gratitude. "You made this possible," I said. "Your faith, your push for the transfer, it changed everything." She chuckled. "You did the work, goddaughter. Keep leading that department. It's saving lives." Her pride was a beacon, tying my past to my present. I hung up, my heart lighter, ready to face whatever lingered in my old life. Days later, a call from the 3rd Military Hospital shattered the calm. "Dr. Xiao, it's Ethan Cole," the voice said. "He's critical. Heart attack from chronic myocarditis. He's asking for you." My breath caught, the name a jolt. Nathan, beside me, took the phone, his face solemn as he confirmed the details. "Alcoholism and exhaustion," he said, handing it back. "Do you want to go?" I paused, memories of Ethan's betrayal, his arms around Emily, my frozen death, clashing with the man I'd once loved. "Let's go," I said, needing to close that chapter. At the hospital, Ethan lay pale, tubes snaking from his arms, his eyes dim but fixed on me. "Anna, you came," he whispered, voice frail. I frowned, anger and pity warring within. "What happened, Ethan? How did you let this happen?" His doctor explained that years of heavy drinking, triggered by his demotion, had inflamed his heart. Ethan's gaze held mine, calm despite the monitor's beeps. "Without you, I didn't care how I lived. Seeing you happy, it's enough." His words stirred quiet grief, not for love, but for the youth we'd shared, now lost. "Don't talk like that," I said softly. "Focus on getting better." He shook his head, a faint smile fading. "I just needed to say I'm sorry." He turned to Nathan, voice weaker. "Dr. Chen, she's the best woman I've known. Take care of her." Nathan grasped his hand, steady. "I will." The monitors screamed and doctors rushed in, pushing us out. I leaned against Nathan, tears falling, not for Ethan, but for the piece of my past he carried. He didn't survive, his heart giving out as Linda, his mother, wept beside him. At Ethan's funeral, I stood with Nathan, bowing silently as old comrades mourned a man whose promise had faded. Linda, aged overnight, clutched my hand. "Anna, it's my fault. I defended him and ignored your pain." Her sobs echoed my complex grief. "It's past, Linda," I said gently. "Take care of yourself." Margaret, present among the mourners, squeezed my shoulder. "You've closed the circle, Anna. Live fully now." Her words sealed the moment, and her mentorship was a constant throughout my journey. As we left, Nathan held my hand, his voice soft. "You okay?" I nodded, the celestial whisper humming. "You are whole." Ethan's death and Emily's apology had buried my past, leaving only the life I'd built, my work, my love, my strength. I was Dr. Anna Xiao, no longer defined by betrayal, but by my chosen future. Spring 1985 bloomed vibrant in the provincial capital, mirroring the life blossoming within me. As director of the medicinal wellness department, I'd seen my program, built on my grandmother's herbal recipes, transform military health, cutting sick days by a third with blends like ginseng for energy and goji berries for immunity. At home, Nathan's love filled our modest apartment. Gentle care was eyely affirmation of my chosen life. The shadows of Ethan's betrayal and Emily's schemes, laid to rest at his funeral, no longer haunted me. The celestial whisper from my ancestors, a faint guide since my rebirth, sang softly, "Thrive, Anna." This was my future, radiant and mine to shape. One morning, as I headed to the hospital, a wave of dizziness stopped me. Nathan caught my arm, his brow furrowed. Anna, are you okay? I brushed it off, blaming sleepless nights refining our latest nutritional protocol. Just tired, I said, smiling. But his concern lingered, and he insisted on a checkup. In the exam room, the doctor's smile was bright. Dr. Xiao, you're 6 weeks pregnant. Congratulations. Nathan's eyes lit up, his hands trembling joyfully as he hugged me. A baby, he whispered, his voice thick. I laughed, tears prickling. I'm pregnant, not fragile. His grin widened. I'm nervous already. The news spread like sunlight. My parents, Daniel and Susan, arrived from the provincial university, their faces glowing. My mother bustled into our kitchen, her voice warm. Please tell me what you're craving, Anna. I'll cook anything. My father, usually stoic, pulled me into a hug. A grandchild, he murmured, eyes misty. My godmother, Margaret Lynn, sent a package of nourishing herbs, licorice root, red dates, with a note. For a healthy baby, my pride. Her support, from orchestrating my transfer to celebrating my triumphs, had been my anchor. I called her, gratitude spilling over. You've given me so much, I said. She chuckled. You earned it, goddaughter. That wellness program's a legacy. Now rest for that child. My colleagues at the hospital showered me with congratulations and teasing. Director Xiao is thriving in work and family. Our department had just won a military award for scientific advancement, and our data showed a 30% boost in soldier endurance. Dr. Kerr, our head, clapped my shoulder. Your vision's changing lives, Anna. Now a permanent fixture at the hospital, Nathan worked beside me, his internal medicine expertise refining our protocols. We trained staff together, and we shared our passion for thread-weaving work and love. He read parenting books aloud at night, his hand on my still flat belly. Boy or girl? He asked, eyes soft. Either, I said, leaning into him as long as they're healthy. The pregnancy was smooth, save for mild nausea, but Nathan fussed like I was glass. No lifting files, he insisted, carrying my bag. I laughed at his care in contrast to Ethan's neglect. My past life, where I'd died frozen outside his door, felt like a distant dream, its pain erased by this joy. I reflected on my journey one evening, sitting with Nathan in our garden. I was given a second chance, I said, my voice quiet. That celestial whisper, it wasn't just chance. My ancestors, maybe my grandmother, pushed me to live fully. Nathan squeezed my hand. You've done more than live. You've built a legacy. I thought of Emily, whose apology had closed one chapter, and Ethan, whose death had ended another. Their choices had shaped their fates, Emily's ambition humbled by the border's harshness, Ethan's life lost to his ruin. I'd seen Emily once more, months ago, at a market. She'd looked worn, her voice soft. You were right, Dr. Xiao. I chased the wrong things. I'm trying to start over. I'd nodded, unmoved but not unkind. Keep going, Emily. Her envy of my happiness was her burden, not mine. I'd learned that everyone pays for their choices, and I'd chosen strength, love, and life. My parents visited often. My mother cooked soups, and my father debated baby names. Margaret sent another note, promising to see when the baby arrived. You'll be a brilliant mother, she wrote her faith a final gift. The hospital promoted Nathan to deputy director, and our partnership is now official. We presented our expanded program at a national conference, earning standing ovations. Our dream, I whispered to Nathan, correcting my earlier claim. He grinned, kissing my forehead. Ours. As spring deepened, I stood in our apartment, my hand on my growing belly, Nathan's arm around me. The city lights sparkled beyond a canvas of hope. My past, Ethan's betrayal, my frozen death, was a shadow, powerless against this radiant present. The celestial whisper, now a soft hum, spoke of completion. You are whole, Anna. I was doctor. Anna Xiao, healer, wife, and soon-to-be mother. My life was a tapestry of purpose and love. Heaven had given me a second chance, and I'd woven it into a future brighter than I'd ever dreamed.